Hey Crypties, it's Roxy, and this is my first video ever, so please bear with me. I'm new at this, but I really wanted to talk about the Notoriously Morbid brush set that came out a few months ago. This was a really great set. It was a $30 price point, and it had 15 brushes in it. And at first I was like, oh, it's just a brush set, like with the Notoriously Morbid name on it. Surely it's not going to be that fancy. Wow, like y'all, I was so wrong. Honestly, these brushes are really great. They work amazing for loose pigments. This is one of the biggest issues I've had with some brushes that I've tried. And I'm sure that that's because Carrie and her crew at Notoriously Morbid definitely must have tried these out before they decided on whoever, helped make them or produce them, because really these work so good with their loose pigments. I mostly say that just because sometimes the brushes, they're either way too fluffy to the point where it just doesn't pick up the pigment, or it's too condensed and tight with the bristles, and because of that, it holds the pigment way too well to the point where you really can't even get it to blend. It barely will come off the brush, and it's just not fun. So I'm going to start first with the face brushes. For this video, I actually earlier today took some closer up photos of the brushes, and I numbered them to make this a little easier. And you'll find photos of that in the comment section on this video. So I hope that will maybe help out some people, because I know sometimes my camera's not amazing and probably is going to be easier to look at on those photos than personally this video getting up close and whatnot. Anyways, so I'm going to start with the face brushes that come with the NM set. There's only really a few brushes that I would really consider like face brushes in this set specifically, and there's 3 of them. So the first one is going to be one of these big dense ones here. This one I have labeled as number 1, and it is definitely best for your powders, putting on over, whatever you need to put on top of it. Setting powder, great. If you use, I use a colored powder sometimes, like a light, sheer color translucent powder. And that works really great too, I find, with these. So with the fluffier brushes, you're going to want to use your powders, things like that. So with this one, this is just a really good all over the face brush, at least especially for me. I do find these brushes are great because they really have a very sturdy handle, and it doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't, it feels nicely made. So, continuing. So the next brush is going to be this little guy. I have him numbered as 2. And this one I do really like a lot also. This is actually what I like to use for a contour. I had a brush, not a Notoriously Morbid one, but I had a brush that looks like this that I really like to do for my contour, because to me, it gets a really good, kind of angle there, and I have a lot of trouble contouring. That's why I don't really do it a lot. But the nice thing about these is that this flat top part, really helps to, specify where you want to put the product, in my opinion. So, it's really, 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 really great to get those contours and things like that. I wouldn't really recommend it for blush. It's probably going to distribute a little too much product in those areas where you're going to want to also eventually buff it out, if that makes any sense. As far as this brush, I actually really like this one better than the one I originally had, because it is much smaller. I feel like it's more of a better specific, size to get on most people's faces. So this I think is actually a really great contour brush, mostly with powdered contour. I would think you could probably use it with, a cream contour or something like that, but it may also get really stuck in the bristles, so there's no way of really knowing. I don't really use a lot of cream contour or cream products, to be honest. Just doesn't really work with me very well. So I do think that this brush is like really, really, really great for a good like contour brush because it gets that like packed in feeling you need in that area. The third brush we have here is this one, and trust me, I at first thought this brush was the same as the first brush. They do look very similar. The biggest difference is I find this one actually has like a little more of a shape to it at the top, like a little bit of, you know, like it's got a little more of a taper to it as opposed to this one that's a little more round. This one you could also use for powder. I use this a lot for blush, especially with the kind of angled portion because you can really like get right here in that area and also like really kind of like buff it out like that. You know, blend it in, get it really in there. This brush is really, really, really good for that. A lot of people are used to a blush brush that looks like this. I also really like a good angled blush because personally I like to get it right here, almost do it like some people would contour with. But I kind of like the bigger brush because I feel like it would dispense like a little more product properly as opposed to being as concentrated in certain areas. Now I want to move on to these two brushes I have. They are labeled in my photos as number 9 and number 10. Number 9 is what I would consider personally like a concealer brush. You could definitely use it to apply pigments, but it's kind of like a flatter brush here with like, it's a little longer. It's got a lot of flexibility in it though, which I also think is good for things that are like creamy products. But personally, I would use this for concealer because like, you know, you can get really in here with it. Number 10 is similar. I would also use it for concealer personally. It has more of an angle, again, just to get in those like tight to reach areas, certain spots that like you need a little more precision with. You're going to want to use something a little more angled like this. So now I want to talk about these really dense little brushes. These, in my opinion, are mostly going to be good for liners, brows, really probably works better with a cream or liquid pigment or product because they are so dense that the pigment kind of like sinks into the brushes. So this would be good for eyeliner, brows, you know, anything you need to do like precision with is going to be better with these denser, closer packed bristles. And now moving on to, honestly, my favorite brushes in this whole set, which are the ones that I have labeled 11 through 15. These are the fluffier brushes here. I know they look a lot alike on camera. That's part of the reason I took the close-up photos. I think it's probably a little more helpful to tell really in person. I really love these brushes. These are the ones I use the most out of the whole set. And the reason I really like these is that they also remind me specifically of the brush that I literally used all the time. Like, I kept using it all the time because it was the only brush that I really felt was perfect for me to use. And I was like about to go buy like 20 of them just because I use them so often. But when I got this set, I was super, super, super excited because honestly, these 5 brushes like are so hard to find brushes like this, in my opinion. It doesn't seem like they're anything fancy, but personally, I can tell you from other brands that these ones from Notoriously Morbid are better. These are the looser ones for the eyes. This one's got a little bit of an angle That's super great for like getting in here, getting in this little area here, you know, getting all that. Then you have, that one's number 15. Then I really liked this one, number 11, actually. It has this kind of almost like angled flat top on it, and like, it's actually perfect for me to get, those colors like into my crease here, because I can really like use the little top part to like get around the eye. So like, that is one of the ones I've been using a lot, and really, all the other ones are really good too. I mean, it just depends on the size you need. Like, I like to use these to just kind of like pack it on right there. Like, really get it in. That's why I like these though, because they pick up the bristles. They pick up the pigment really well with the bristles. And then also like distribute it really well. You can actually like blend very well with these, which I really love, because a lot of times you're getting a brush that you just want to like pack out on, and then you want to use a different brush to actually blend it in. But to me, with these that Notoriously Morbid made, they're great because they're soft enough and fluffy enough to blend, but also like not so dense either. But they're still more dense so that they hold the pigment to really blend it in. So, I mean, these 5 are like my favorite. I use them all the time. Then you even have ones that are just like, this one's a little more flat. This is number 12, that I've labeled. It's a little more flat, so it's a little smaller on the eyelid. You can get those more here, you know. You can use them easily up here for highlighting, things like that. Personally, this one has a little more of like a rounded edge, number 14. It also, I mean, you know, it just depends on what you're comfortable with. To me, a lot of times, like, I'm not picking a brush specifically because it's supposed to be used for this or for that. I'm picking it because like it actually works for what I need it for. You know, some places, like some people, they do need that really big, like, blending in that inner crease. So, for me, though, with my lid and the way that it kind of, like, hangs over, again, like, I have a little bit of a hood as well, I really have to, like, define that crease so that it really sits right, and doesn't just make it look, like, very flat. So, briefly at the end of this video, though, I do want to discuss, like, there are some very specific brushes that I really like for my crease blending when I use my mattes. And I don't know why, but some of the ones in the Notoriously Morbid set didn't really blend the same way I wanted them to for how I want my mattes and my crease space to look. I'm sure they can. I just maybe didn't experiment with them yet enough. But I really like these taper blending brushes for that. So like I have one, I really like this one, and it like really fits just perfect into my crease. So you can see like where that distributes really well. And then I like this one a lot because it really gets in just to darken this little crease here, you know, like just get right in there. So those are kind of my favorite ones. I just want to say thanks for watching my video. Of course, this is one of my first ones, so I'm still learning. If you have any comments, any other tips or tricks for the Notoriously Morbid brushes, please drop them in the comments section below. Of course, as I mentioned at the beginning, there are some reference shots that are in there that are closer up, so you can see more in detail the brushes that I'm talking about, because I do number them so that you can use that as a reference. Thanks you guys for watching. Have a good one. Hope this was helpful.